This is the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game.
Rule number one is you have to believe in yourself. You're the only one who doesn't think you belong in this appointment. The prospect has already validated your existence by scheduling time with you. Get it through your head you belong here, go in there, crush it, and close the deal.
A place where sales professionals can come to learn from other sales professionals and thought leaders that have mastered their craft.
The difference between a good salesperson and a best-in-class salesperson is only 2 minutes. By spending an extra 2 minutes on what you might think is a mundane task in the sales game, you separate yourselves from the pack, you grow your book of business, you close more deals, and you retain your accounts.
As well as their peers who are still striving for perfection to achieve their why.
I have a wife and 4 kids. Failure is not an option.
Real sales professionals, real stories, real results. Are you ready to feel the power?
Hey everybody, welcome to the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game. Today, we got fresh off of a golf outing. I can't wait to hear from the Beard about the golf outing that he was on with a PGA player in Asheville, North Carolina. But more importantly,
we lost Will.
More importantly, we had Will Shaw from Better Agency. He'll be back in just a second, I'm sure. But while we're waiting on him, lay it out there, man. How'd the trip go? Aside from the fact you were inundated with claims information.
Oh, my God. Yeah, so it was really cool. A buddy of mine, his family lives up in Asheville, and every year they do this golf trip with, their friends. One of them, former PGA Tour pro, multiple winner. I think he's on the senior tour now, but so
it's probably a good thing I stayed home.
Didn't show everybody up. Yeah.
Didn't want to embarrass him in public.
So I mean, yeah, like I'm a 5.1 is my index. That's respectable. But like a lot of these
ballparking it.
Yeah, right. Well, so a lot of these guys are, scratch or plus handicaps, which is just ridiculous. So, I went out, we played Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at just like sick courses, like insane. The one, I was showing them pictures today at sales meeting. It doesn't even really do it justice, the pictures that I took. Like you're on this mountain and it like every single hole is just absolutely spectacular. Like could be on a poster somewhere or something.
Hey, Will, we're talking about Kyle's golf outing to Asheville.
Yeah.
Awesome. North Carolina.
So, you're looking at, it's like a 300-foot drop. And so, that place was insane. But I played like shit on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and finally fired a 76 yesterday. Won some money. We were gambling the whole time. It was fun. It was a great time. The weather was perfect, too. It was like yesterday, it started sprinkling a little bit, but every other day was like a high of 75, and it was just absolutely money the entire time.
So I can tell you this, like a week ago yesterday, I bought a new pickup truck, which is the first time I have had a pickup truck in 20 years, and I immediately went hunting and fishing last weekend. I think it has to
Are you gonna build a house this weekend? Are you gonna become a framer or something? I feel like you need to be a contractor.
And you know what? I'm gonna use subs, and I will not get certificates on them.
Now you sound like me.
Yeah, I'm going to be an insurance rebel. So Mr. Will Shaw is the CEO and founder of Better Agency. And, I want Will to talk a little bit about his background and stuff. But before I do, I want to set the table because I feel like Will is a really well-kept secret in the InsurTech world. Nick is definitely the fanny pack and the face behind Better Agency from a marketing perspective. But I find comfort in knowing that Will is the brains behind the operation in many cases. The longer I speak with him and the more that we're around each other, I'm comforted in knowing that there's more than just Nick behind it. Not that Nick's not smart. He just, he needs handlers too. And so I wanted to bring Will on the podcast a little bit and just hear what his vision is for Better Agency, kind of from what he originally thought to sort of how they've course corrected along the way. But, Will, why don't you give them the 10,000-foot overview of sort of where you came from and how you got into where you're at now, going back. I mean, this dude was an NFL tight end, people. So
There you go.
he, I handle his light work for him when we're in hotel lobbies in Chicago. If he doesn't want to get up and have to get in any skirmishes, Kyle Will was actually present when I almost had to put the Stone Cold Stunner on a gentleman.
On
I
the
watched it. Yeah, I mean, you could have passed. You could definitely have a bodyguard trait to you. I really appreciate it.
now you're not talking about the car line situation from last week or
No.
the week before. This is an in-person altercation. I'd like to hear about this actually.
So it's actually pretty, it's not anything that you should have a lot of anticipation for. I just lost my temper in a hotel lobby because there was a gentleman that was there. I mean, Will and Nick and I think we're the only three that were sitting there. We're trying to have a business conversation, and a gentleman who may or may not have been intoxicated came up and was just mumbling nothing that resembled anything that made sense, and sat down at our table where we were sitting in the lobby.
That's
and
awesome.
He says, and his first thing that came out of his mouth was, "I'm going to ask you guys a random question." I looked at him and I said, "Well, anything that comes out of your mouth is going to be random because you randomly decided to sit down at our table without being invited."
Right.
And it was downhill from there. So
Naturally.
basically, he was looking for $20. He was looking for some money. I thought like maybe $10. I gave him 20, thinking it would make him go away, and then he proceeded to berate me.
What?
Yeah, like just nonsense. Like, I bet this guy wouldn't even help you if you were stranded on the side of the road. I'm like, dude, I'm the one that just gave you $20. I paid
What a
you to
loser.
go away. Now get out of here.
Seriously.
And so it escalated. I stood up. I was reminded that I had a lot to lose if I were to get into a physical altercation.
It's
And
fair.
so I calmed down a little bit. But yeah, that was it in a nutshell.
David was playing security at the hotel lobby because security was nowhere to be found.
Yeah, he was
on,
making
security.
time with the front desk lady on the 3 to 11 shift. I had to cover for him while he was trying to pull tail from the front desk worker. That's how I look at it. But anyhow, Will, give him your story, man. I mean, you have a pretty interesting background.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. And Kyle, I'm jealous of your golfing trip. I'm a golfer. I'm not a 5 handicap. I'm about 11, but I still like to get out there and try to. That's the peak of my athletic ability these days.
Nice.
Yeah. Long story short, I like David had mentioned, I played in the NFL. I was fortunate enough to play for the Steelers and Eagles. Bounced around for about a year and a half. Was actually active in about 3 or 4 games. Have a couple of, I think I have like 2 career catches to my name.
It's more than I have.
I was going to say I'd have 2 career concussions to my name if that was
Yeah,
me.
for sure.
I probably
Still not
have more than
getting
2 or
nailed.
3 concussions to my name too. Specifically running across the middle on Luke Kuechly again.
Oof.
Like any great football player, I had no backup plan. So when I got injured in 2014, my wife worked at a company then called Infusionsoft and basically got me what I call my first and only real job. And so I learned the tricks of the trade from 2014 to 2016 there. And
Well, we lost Will, but I'm going to say that he was going to tell you from 2014 to 2016, he was there at Infusionsoft, and that's where I have to stop because I don't know where the story goes after that.
yeah, sorry, am I back?
Yep, you're back.
Oh. And then
We lost you at 2014 to 2016. You cut out.
Awesome. Okay, yeah. So at the end of 2016, after spending a couple of years there, I ended up leaving and started a company doing kind of custom software implementations. We were kind of like almost like a marketing consultant just on the tech side of it. So we were doing things like Infusionsoft, Salesforce, HubSpot. We built a pretty good team there and fell into the insurance space. It's how I met Nick. It's how I met a lot of people throughout the industry and started doing a lot of custom implementations. And after working with 50, 60, 100 agencies, I just realized like there's got to be a better way of doing this. It doesn't make sense to pay a consultant 10, 15, 20, 30 grand a year for most agencies. You're putting together 5 or 6 or 7 different applications and trying to customize those. So why can't we just build an all-in-one platform? And that was kind of the idea of better agency when we first started. So I left that company and went back to like guys like Nick and said, hey, would you want to help me build this? Went to Jordan, who's our CTO. He was actually Infusionsoft's 11th employee. So he helped build that product from, 10 customers to about 30,000 customers and said, hey, do you want to build this the right way from scratch? And so that's what we set out to do. And then we bootstrapped it, self-funded it to build our team. And initially we wanted to build a CRM marketing automation platform specifically for independent agents, the retention side of things, and integrate with basically all the different AMS platforms and some other different technologies out there. And what that led us to, we launched that in end of 2019. By the summer of 2020, we realized that was never going to be a realistic thing we could do, either because of the technology didn't exist to do that, or platforms didn't want to do that. And so we started at the end of 2020 progressing and moving into the route of becoming an AMS. And that's kind of where, Better Agency now is a sales-driven agency management system, and progressing from being just a CRM and becoming an AMS.
So here's my question, man, because I need you to fill in the blanks for me. You certainly didn't go from catching passes to programming Infusionsoft.
Yeah.
So how did you learn your skill set?
Yeah. So like for me, it was, I really grew up with this mentality. Like, listen, I was not a natural born athlete. Like my father's 5'4", my mom's 5'3", my dad's 115 pounds. Kyle, I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you in person, but David has. I'm about 6'3", 240 pounds. Right. Just for a frame of reference. Like yeah.
That's like a Yao Ming situation. Like Yao Ming's parents, I think, are like 5'2", and he's like 100 feet tall.
Yeah. A lot of people start asking if there's like a milkman situation going on, and I would agree if it wasn't for the fact that I look identical to my father.
Yeah, no, I'm same way, man. My dad's 5'9". My mom's maybe 5'7", 5'8". They're relatively normal size. I'm 6'4".
Yeah. That's so crazy. Like there's some like obviously some natural things there, but like one of the mindsets that I grew up with, and probably from my pops, is like just be the hardest worker in any room, and that's served me well in football. Like I just lived by that mentality. Like we'd have 6 a.m. workouts, and I would have been there at 5 a.m. By the time everybody got in there, I'm drenched in sweat, looking at everybody like this is my second workout, and that's just the leadership mentality that I had, and it served me really well as a football player, and I believed if I kept that same mentality, it would serve me well in my professional career. And so when I went into Infusionsoft, it was the same mentality. Like, could I outwork everybody here and just be the hardest worker and just let the chips fall where they may and control what I can control? And so when I went in there, I just went in there with the mentality of I know nothing and I need to learn everything. And so I went in there and I wanted to learn. I started with implementation. Once I figured out like what was going on there, it's like, well, how are we selling this thing? So I wanted to learn sales. So I started working with the sales department. Then I said, all right, well, I want to learn why are we designing the product this way? So I jumped into product. And so 2 years, I basically jumped around and tried to learn as much about everything. I even started developing my own web applications and overlays and things like that, just hack knowledge on development, just to learn and better understand kind of what was going on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, I think it's similar to what I did when I got into the insurance industry, to be honest with you. I had no knowledge whatsoever other than the fact I hated paying an insurance bill every month. That was like where it was limited, in my knowledge of this industry. And I just decided, you know what? It's funny because you may or may not have ever noticed this, but I'll show you the next time I see you, which will be here shortly at Innovation. But I've actually got on my knuckles, like they're smooth, like perfectly smooth to the point where it looks like little circles. And it's from where I used to bang my knuckles on the shelves when I was stocking groceries, and they just got beat up so many times.
Just bleeding everywhere, bleeding all over everyone's canned goods.
all over your pork and beans.
God.
Wash it off before you use it. It's not my problem. But no, I mean, it goes back to I was going to do whatever I needed to do to work as hard as I could to learn the industry and work my way up from the bottom up. And so it's funny because people always ask, like, what happened to your finger? What happened to your finger? And then it gives me an opportunity to tell that story. But yeah, man, I agree with you. I think we're very similarly minded when it comes to that aspect of things.
Yeah. Next time we meet up, I'll show you my hands too. My hands are a little bit messed up for different reasons. I've broken my knuckles so many times, my fingers kind of go off in different directions. It's a normal football player trait.
Sure.
Well, I used to break my knuckles a lot in hotel lobbies, but I've learned to control that. I'm not that guy anymore. That guy never
Yeah.
comes back.
You're not that guy, pal.
Nope. So that's cool, man. So you decide you're going to launch Better Agency. You put together a group of people. You guys are growing ridiculously fast right now. So, you know, by all outward appearances, it like validated the idea that you had. I would tend to agree that the agency world needs easier. The agency world needs better because there's so much that goes on. Just and as you come into this industry from the outside, so the thing for me that was the craziest is I came from Target, and Target is probably the most technologically
So
advanced
structured.
retailer.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, dude. Like I talk about the technology, what the technology was like, and it's like something you would walk in today. It was 20 years ago. Like I have no idea what the technology is like there at this point. It's nuts. But the agency world is just so completely different in terms of what is accepted. And it wouldn't, how we operate would not be accepted in any other industry, I don't think. I don't know why we put up with things the way we do. It's just like one of the things I've been joking about recently, but I'm actually getting more and more serious about it is I think agents need to go to the carriers and tell them that since they expect us to use Accord forms to submit new business to them, that we want them to develop an Accord standardized form for loss runs and make all of the carriers adhere to that. So that we have a standard template that has all of the information that we need as agents when we want to review claims and market accounts. It's crazy because
Dude, there's some
that.
loss runs that come out that I look at that look like somebody did them on a typewriter and just faxed them over.
It is absolutely insane what level of garbage we get.
Yeah.
In many cases. Now, I'm not saying everybody's that way, but there is no standard to that. So to me, there's a.
So you're talking more about standardization and having things uniform.
100%, man.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what's expected of us, why can't we expect that in return?
I agree.
You want a premium versus loss summary? Well, go talk to carrier ABC over here who handed me hot garbage for loss runs. I don't even know what day of the week this claim was reported, let alone what the surrounding circumstances were and how much medical and indemnity was broken out and all the other stuff. I just think that if we're going to keep a standard in place, it needs to apply to everybody.
I agree, and it's interesting you bring that up because I look at it a lot like I'm very. If you follow me on social media, I'm very angry with like the NFLPA and the Players Association, which I still have a lot of connections to, and they don't like what I have to say a lot of times. And it's because I look at it the same way with the relationship between insurance, like carriers, as well as the independents. Is at what point are as an industry, are independents going to say, you know what, carrier A, if you're not doing your job that we need to the level that I'm just not going to work with you. I'm going to make a real intentional change here, and it's something that I really just take in a lot of information, but I'm starting to hear that more and more from independents is like, we need to change who we work with. Well, you got to start hitting them where it hurts to make that change. And that's been an argument I've made with the NFLPA for years.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And I mean, that's part of the reason we have the podcast is to rally the troops around some of this stuff, because I think that we settle for what we can get instead of what we want. And there's a big difference between those two. And what we want isn't that difficult. I mean, it's easy for me to say I'm not the guy building it, but I mean, in all actuality, man, I think part of the problem is that we're in a bolt-on industry, period. Like, we'll make a product and it'll work for today, but in order for us to make it work going forward, we're just going to bolt something on here, something on over there. And by the time you look at it, it looks like one of my Lego creations that I make when playing with my kids. I just got to make up a story about what it really is because it looks like nothing. Well, I mean, it's the same thing with some of these systems that we have. Oh, we don't have CRM capabilities, so you have to go bolt a CRM on, or you have to bolt an agency management system application on top of a CRM, or we don't have a way for your VoIP system to integrate, so you're going to have to bolt on a texting application, or a call recording application or whatever else, as opposed to it being one cohesive user interface. And I mean, I think that's really, when I look at what Better Agency's doing, that's the most exciting thing about what you're doing is you're taking and creating a dashboard that's going to house literally everything that an agency needs in one spot, and it's going to work out of the box.
Well, you bring up 2 points there I want to address, like, because I think it's really important is, one being like, it's interesting to me because the carriers, they say we can't do certain things or whatnot, but they're very, high and eager to work with the new InsurTech coming into the space and direct to consumers and things like that, but they aren't willing to make APIs available or adjustments to independents, which is where most of their revenue is driven from. And I just don't understand that mindset. And it's something that the more I dig into this and the more I understand it, it really just frankly pisses me off. Like, I just don't understand it. The second part you're saying there is like, it's 100% true. I like when we started this, I really didn't have the intention of building an AMS. But now that we've had to go through this, our intention is, let's build an agency in a box. Let's build something that has proven processes that agencies can follow. And whether we build it or deeply partner with it, like, it's one thing to say, oh, we integrate with this platform. No, like, an integration to me means like, we're using your technology, but it's a seamless interface from within Better Agency where you don't have to go and jump around and use another product. You can just manage it all from one screen within the app.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this, that we use HubSpot in my agency. So for us, yeah, we have a third-party application for texting with Sakari, but it's embedded inside of our HubSpot experience. So if we need to text somebody or read text messages or whatever, we're not going to a third-party app that's going to eventually transmit information over. We're going into our user interface, we're texting from it, and we can see that attached to the contact record through and through. Now, it cost me a lot of money to do that, whereas with what you guys are putting together, you're going to have all of this functionality in one spot, and all they got to do is start using it.
Well, that's the kind of the goal. Like, we're trying to bring in the technology that has been standardized across the industry for the last 10, 15 years by companies like Salesforce and HubSpot, even Infusionsoft, and saying, hey, we need to give this to independents and give it to them on one platform. Like, we want to be the HubSpot for independent agencies. We want to allow them and give them the tools that they need to grow their agencies and operate out of one place efficiently.
So you guys launched, right, with these problems in mind that you wanted to solve. I imagine that there were some roadblocks along the way. Talk about some of those challenges you guys faced.
Yeah, probably I mean, there's been several big roadblocks we've had to overcome. I mean, the first one was just, all right, what do we start by building first? We had a lot of ideas, and what we hovered around was really mine and our CTO's like core area of expertise, which was the CRM marketing automation. And so, we were bootstrapping this. So we spent a lot of time building this and just spending our own money, hired our own team to go and build this and launch this. So like when we launched, it was kind of like, hey, is this even going to work or not? We knew the product would work, but would people buy this and would people find value of this? And when we launched, we got 50 users in the first 45 days or 50 agencies to sign up. And what it told us was like, okay, there's some demand here. If we can get 50 agencies to sign up in 45 days. And so what we kind of did was lock down sales a little bit for the next 60 days. Hey, let's gather all this feedback and how do we improve? And so we just rapidly developed. And luckily from that launch, we were able to basically pay like our development team to keep going. And, I wasn't making any money, but we were able to pay basically to keep going on this project. And that's what we spent. We eventually opened up sales, but that's kind of what we spent the rest of 2020 doing, was just taking in a lot of feedback, understanding what was working, what was not working. I think the second biggest hurdle we had to overcome was realizing we're gonna end up building an AMS. These integrations are essentially almost as complicated as building an AMS because of the way we have to receive the data, because it's this is not meant to be disrespectful to anybody's product, but it's what I call a legacy product. It wasn't built natively on the cloud. And so that makes it very hard to do integrations. It's very customized on each individual basis. And so the biggest hurdle we had to overcome with that was just getting companies like Ivans and carriers to basically approve us as a vendor. Coming up with the small fortune to make that happen. And we had to overcome that. We probably got told no for like a year and countless amount of times.
How do you keep pushing through that? Just getting told no to the face over and over again.
That's just my mentality. Like that, it's just like, it's the same. Like, listen, I played sports. My life is a walking sports cliche. No is not a realistic thing to me. It's just a matter of how can I like leverage this the right way to get to a yes? Like how can I make it work? Like I'm a straight shooter. I'm a non-BS type of guy. Like how are we gonna take this no and get it to a yes? And how can I find like the right pressure points to turn this in? It's like same reason that I was a 0-star recruit coming out of high school. Same reason I had to go to JUCO. Same reason I didn't go to a massive D1A school. I went to D1AA. Same reason I went undrafted and still made the team. It's like you just keep finding, like, I look at game like I look at life like a game of poker. It's like we're all dealt different hands, and can I win enough hands? Can I keep playing the game? Like, can I play the game long enough?
You don't have to have the best hand to win.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't have to have the best hand, but can I keep playing the game enough to get a yes, win a hand, and then I get to keep playing? Like, can you play the game long enough? And so that's how I looked at it. Like, it just goes back to that mentality of like, you keep knocking down one door, and eventually you keep knocking on doors, and eventually something's going to open up, and you just got to, you got to kind of just run through that thing.
Love it.
Worst poker player ever, by the way.
Really?
I'm way too tight, man. I play blackjack.
Really?
Blackjack
That
only.
surprises me.
Now, so my story on playing poker was I was over at Derby Lanes one night with a guy that I lived next to in the townhouse community that we lived in when we first got married. And I folded like 16 hands in a row, right? Like I'm out. And so I'm finally playing this hand, and I'm slowly putting more and more money out. And this other guy just keeps putting money out. And I'm sitting with I had 4 of a kind, right? So there's like a minimal chance I'm going to lose. So this is when I found out you're not allowed to talk to the other people at the poker table in the poker room. So like I go all in, and this dude doesn't even hesitate and goes all in. And I looked at him and I said, you understand that I folded 16 hands in a row, and on this hand I'm going all in. Are you sure that's what you want to do? Because I felt like I was taking this guy's kid's lunch money.
Yeah.
If I won, because of the demographic that's at Derby Lane specifically.
Seriously, yeah.
Right? And so I did. I took all of his money, and I swore I would never go back there and play again. I don't like it. Like, the people who like it. I just like blackjack because all I have to do is memorize the basic strategy card, and I am like a flipping machine, man. Like, I don't even have to think a split second for my brain to know exactly what I have to do in any scenario, and I almost always win, and that's the other nice part about it.
Blackjack is more fun in that sense, like especially if you're going, like if you just roll up to the casino and you're with some friends or whatever, it's fun to sit around the blackjack table because it's quick, and it's poker you have to sit and invest some time. For me, I enjoy the poker more because it's more strategy, and it's just I don't know, it's just different. I grew up playing it, but
I don't have the patience.
Yeah, so now I'm kind of understanding how that makes sense for you, but that surprised me when you just said that.
Yeah, no, I mean the strategy of it I think would be neat. I need the instant gratification, man. I got to go from one to the next to the next to the next. So
I'm not a gambler, but I prefer blackjack.
Yeah, so
if I go to the casino, I'm playing blackjack. Like, don't get me wrong, but I would much rather sit around like on the weekend or whatever and do like a house game of poker with friends. Totally.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, if I go to the casino, I'm lost. So, like, these are going
You're
back years.
You're sitting on the penny slots, just banging heaters.
Yeah, exactly. Next to the lady with the oxygen tank.
Yeah.
Right, who's also banging
Also
heaters
just
with her oxygen tank.
Just sucking
not
down
realizing
darts.
she's like a fire hazard, just ready to make that place blow at any given time. So you guys had you had I wouldn't say rocky, but sort of choppy 2020. If you ran out, you brought 50 agencies on, shut down sales for a couple months. 2021's been a great year for you. Talk a little bit about what 2021's looked like and sort of where the platform has evolved over the course of the last year. And then for some foreshadowing, the next thing I'm going to ask you is, what do you see coming up for 2022? Because I know what I've heard, but I want to hear, kind of what's in your head, and I'm sure everybody else does too.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I'm most proud of is just like our team. You move from this like idea of like, all right, we're creating a product and it solves some problems. We're on track there. We're going to evolve the product. That starts to go. All of a sudden, you start building a team. We got a team of, I think we're at like 20 employees now, and it's a lot of fun. Like my day to day is less in product and more about building a company and building a team, and that's probably the coolest evolution that I've seen. I've seen so much growth amongst our team. Like Nick, like Nick specifically, like Nick manages people. And it's been a really cool thing to see Nick go from like being this just a marketer kind of rogue person to running a team. And that's been awesome to experience. I think the other thing I've seen is just the growth of our product. Again, we're just continuing to try to solve more problems. I think two big things that we're trying to focus on, or what we've been working on this year that people start seeing over the next couple months, is both growing the evolution of, better, I don't want to say better automation, but just continuing internal automation, making the application a little bit better and easier to use, just a little bit of clunkiness that happens when you go through things really fast. And then just some additions that we're adding on, and just the continued evolution of trying to give more tools to agencies. I think that's the biggest thing that I'm most proud of in 2021. And we raised a couple $1 million, which was great for us to expand the team and kind of give reassurances to our company of, hey, we're in this for the long haul. We're not going anywhere. We've got a mission that we've set out, and we're not going to stop until we reach that and establish new goals to go achieve too.
Well, one would say that your track record says that you're going to achieve that, and then you're going to push through and do the next thing. I'll tell you, Will, the one thing that I hear every time I turn around is how responsive and how empathetic your team is. And I think that says a lot. You have a very active users group. When ideas come up or when hiccups happen, it's not like people are just shouting those things into a void, never to hear back on them. Like, you guys are on it, and you're on it with reckless abandon until it's solved. And that says a lot, because a lot of people go out and develop a product and they miss the fact that you probably ought to talk to the users about what they're expecting from it and what they're experiencing with it as they're doing that. And I think if I were to tell you the one thing that I think that your team as a whole has done exceptionally well, from having the Facebook group to the users conference to everything else, is you provide a user group and support experience that is unparalleled in this industry based off of what I've witnessed.
Yeah, I mean, to me personally, like, that's the biggest form of compliment we can get of our company is, like, at the end of it, like, we genuinely care about this industry. It's why if anybody follows me on LinkedIn, all I'm talking about is insurance. Like, just like what's going on in the industry. Our team is awesome. One of the things I'm most passionate about is customer success. Like, we're not going to be perfect. We're going really fast on the product side and development. That's why we push updates every 2 weeks. And what happens when you do that is we release what I call minimum viable products. I want to get things in the hands of users, and I don't want to assume that we know everything. And I want to get real feedback. Like, after this, I'm hopping on the call and I have a couple of interviews with actual customers to talk about some new features we're working on. And that's never going to stop. That's what drives us. We're a customer-centric company. And, we have a lot of people that come in and try Better Agency, and they're like, you know what, it's not for us. And that's okay. One of the things we have is, like, we have an exit survey for everybody that tries Better Agency and decides it's not for them. And over 90% of people say they had a great experience and would be interested in coming back in the future as we're able to solve more of their key problems. Like, we're very clear that we're not for everybody, but one thing I'm very clear on is we are going to be a centric company in the industry. And at the root of this is we genuinely care. Like, I will care more about one account than anything else. Like, the business will take care of itself, but I care about customers, and I care about this industry because for too long, from what I can tell, people just genuinely haven't cared enough about the independent space to make meaningful change.
So give us a win. You don't have to mention any names or anything like that, but give us a win that was pretty rewarding for you, or one that you're really proud of.
I think it's, we get a lot of feedback. Like, I would say more than anything is probably like our testimonial page on our website. We have a proof page, and it's got like 10 plus videos and 60 customers on there. But like, one of the coolest things that I saw was, somebody was getting ready to shut down their agency, and they gave Better Agency a try. And since then, they've tripled the size of their agency. They've hired employees, and they're re-engaged with their agency, and they're recommitted to doing this for life. And so, like, to take somebody that was ready to give up on their agency and get them re-engaged, get them they've hired 5 people this year, and get them recommitted on the path of success, like, that to me is probably the most rewarding thing that I've seen, probably piece of feedback. And nice. Like, for me, like, I'm so passionate about this because, like, independent agents to me are like the true local small business owners. Like, you guys are going out and hiring people in your local communities, trying to make local communities better. Like we have one agency, they go out every month and they donate to local charities, and I get to see it on Twitter, and it's really cool. But like, I don't know, to me, like that was one of the coolest things that I ever got to see.
Nice.
So where's your head, man? What are you thinking for 2022? Where do we go from here? I mean, I think that I know what my thoughts are, but I'm going to reserve those until I hear yours, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to share too much because I gotta give Nick a lot of credit. That's his thing. This is like there's obviously a lot of improvements we want to make at the application. We want to make it easier to use. We just our team is working actively like just to make things easier and better and streamlining that workflow from sales through service through retention. The one thing I can say is I'm intentionally focused everywhere I'm walking. I'm talking to people. I'm listening. I'm gathering information. And the one thing I'm really passionate about is quote bind an issue. Like how do we make it easier for independents to quote bind an issue policies without human interactions and giving them the real tools to compete against the emerging InsurTech market and direct to consumer carriers out there. And that's what I'm passionate about, and giving those tools and putting that in the hand of independents so they can compete against the national brands. That's my current obsession, and that's what you're going to see a lot of over the rest of this year as well as into 2022.
Cool. So I think that one of the things, if I'm being candid, and I know that you're going to agree with me, but I think one of the things that has led people to be apprehensive about using better agencies, specific to agencies that are heavy in commercial, is that functionality for commercial does not yet match where you guys are at in the personal line side. What would be your response to that? I mean, what are you guys doing on commercial to sort of, I don't want to say get it caught up, but to bring the commercial along so that those agencies that are involved in more of a, because the agencies in my circle, and you probably know this already,
Yeah.
they're going to be 60-40, 70-30 commercial more than they are personal lines. When you go to launch a product like this, you have to go to where the masses are. You have to go to the low-hanging fruit. And to me, that's Main Street USA. That's the agencies that have been dealing with small commercial, personal lines. And it's probably 75 or 80% of the agencies nationwide, truthfully, when you look at their demographics. But, I know that the circles I run in, what we do and what our expectations are. And, better agency needs to be able to deal with some of those things. And we've talked about that offline. What would you say to the people who listen to the show when it comes to what's next in that area?
Yeah, I obviously agree with you. And that's where we started. I would say this is, on top of our user group, we have another advisory group that we have of agencies. And it is heavily, more than 50%, just commercial-based agencies. Because we have a lot of agencies that are split, mostly small commercial. They're doing that, but we're heavily investing into the commercial side. We have some updates that'll roll out this month that I think will prove that. A couple of things actually that I think will be powerful, but we're investing heavily in the commercial side. I think there's some unique workflows that come into play. I think there's obviously unique processes and how things get managed. And that's the feedback that we've been getting. And I think people start to see that in the application. But yeah, we're actively working with agencies that are heavy commercial. I think some of them. And we're really excited about bringing the workflows that a commercial agent needs to be successful, giving them those tools so that they can also utilize the tools we've created on the personal lines so they can passively grow their agency through personal lines. Because I think if you're not, if you're a commercial heavy agent and you're not passively growing your agency through personal lines, I think you're missing out on part of your market. And so if we can make that easy, but also give you the tools you need to really maximize your commercial efforts, I think that's a win.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that completely. I mean, that's one of the struggles we've had at my agency, and I'm pretty vocal about that. Kyle, you look like you had a question that was on the tip of your tongue. Then I started talking.
No, I didn't. I was just thinking about how annoyed I was that everybody can probably hear my dog snoring 3 feet from me. But
the good news is no.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, he's there. So anyways, no, I mean, I don't know. What else have we not talked about? Is there...
I don't know. I mean, I feel like we've sort of run through things pretty quickly. Will, why don't you? I mean, for people who don't know specifically what Better Agency does, I think we're making the assumption that they know that, but at its core, talk about the system as it stands today and why it's been so successful. Because I think that, when people ask me about Better Agency, what I tell them is, this is how you should be running your agency without you having to pay a bunch of money like I did to bring somebody in to custom program HubSpot to do what I want it to do. You have everything from pre-built email campaigns to cross-sell campaigns and all of that stuff. So talk a little bit about the structure of what that looks like, because some people may not even know.
Yeah, I mean, what we wanted to do is bring the tools that agencies were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to customize and maybe not even all the way get there on like a Salesforce or even a HubSpot, and give it to you for a couple $100s a month. At the end of the day, I mean, I think that's where we came up with the idea of a sales-driven AMS. There's CRMs out there, there's agency management systems out there, which in my opinion is like more of a glorified general ledger. Like, we're going to be a sales-driven AMS. We're going to split the middle there, and we're going to help you increase sales. And I think that's, at the end of the day, that's what we do. To your point, yeah, we have done for you campaigns, email, text messaging, integrated phone solutions, for anything from lead generation, and lead nurture to sales, to service, to retention, to new clients, to cross-sell. We have a lot of those strategies that we've tried and perfected through hundreds of thousands of leads and clients. And it's all out of the box. I think, Kyle, you asked that question, like, what are some of the things I'm most proud of? It's the agency that went up, and instead of having to take 6 months to move your AMS, we can have you up and running in less than 2 days. And within those 48 hours, we can have made you enough commissions off some of our strategies that it pays for Better Agency for the next 12 months. And that's something that I focus on, is at the end of the day, our platform, we're going to help you make money. And if it doesn't, then I don't want you on it, because, it's not a good fit. Like, at the end of the day, our platform is going to help generate additional revenue for your agency. And that's our intentional focus for how we develop our product, is how do we make an agency more premium, more commission, and grow the revenue.
Sweet.
Yeah, I think if I were to be critical of my peer group, one of the things that I think is a huge gap is they don't really understand the power of CRM. Like, look, automation is a buzzword, drip email is a buzzword. When it comes right down to it, for me, a CRM is there to enhance the client experience, period. And it's also there to help you understand where you have holes in your game, specifically in the sales process.
Right.
If you're not monitoring where your prospects are falling off in that process, how do you ever adjust your process to improve those results? Mm-hmm. It goes back to the old adage, what gets measured gets done. And the truth is, a lot of people just aren't even measuring it. They're looking at it as, how many things did you quote? How many did we get quotes back for? How many submissions did you turn in? How many did you get quotes back for? How many of those quotes did you present versus how many did you close? And all of that. But I mean, there's not anything in that thought process that talks about how many leads did you start with? How many of those did you migrate to a suspect? How many of those did you take from suspect to prospect? And walk people through a buyer's journey so that they can see where they need to course correct along the way. To me, that is the number one advantage of a CRM, because it gives you the intelligence and data that you need to be able to fine tune your product and make it the best that it can be for your users, period. Or for your clients rather. And so that's the biggest thing, is if I don't know where service requests are falling through because of our ticketing being jacked up or whatever else, how do I ever improve my processes? And so I think that part of the reason is that people think you have to be technologically savvy to use tools like this. You don't. I think that people are under the impression that it's expensive to have tools like this. Look, Will, what's the pricing for a standard agency for Better Agency right now?
$300 a month.
Yeah, so $300 a month, people. If you can't write an account or two to get an extra $300 a month because you have that tool, then you shouldn't have the tool. You're not using it. In most cases, I would argue you're probably not even using it. So,
yeah, I'll add on to that. And this is the interesting part, just coming from I know I've been in the insurance market since 2016 now, but coming from outside the insurance space here a little bit is the CRM for most business owners and just about every other industry is the main point of system for a company. It's the main system. It handles your sales. Maybe it handles the service. It handles your revenue. You know where everything's coming into. And what's interesting about the insurance space is that's not the case, right? Your main system is your agency management system. And so what an AMS should have been from the start, and this was a big argument of mine, was a CRM. But the problem is AMSs were developed off a thought process that existed in the 80s and 90s. So you have two issues with that. One is how an agency was run in the 80s and 90s is completely different than the year 2021.
Right.
And you could even say the case about 2019 pre-COVID, right? Now even more so. The second part is look at a company like Salesforce or HubSpot. Like Salesforce is the first cloud-based software solution. That was developed in the late 90s. HubSpot came along in the early 2000s, Infusionsoft kind of followed, ActiveCampaign followed that, and now we've seen these cloud-based software platforms really blow up. And the thing about it is, it is really hard to go back and do that once you haven't been a cloud-based software. So I say all of that because an agency management system should have been a CRM. The problem is the industry as a whole has just kind of been a little bit behind the eight ball on that. Like CRM should not be a topic that we're discussing right now as a new idea in the insurance space. That was a new idea in 2009, 2010. And it's our job, and kind of what I'm heading on and with Better Agency is this idea of that's why we're going to be a sales-driven AMS. We're a CRM and we're bolting on the AMS capabilities because at its core, an agency management system is a glorified general ledger that brings in your policy and your insurance data. And I believe that we're on the right track to be able to do that. And it's going to give the insurance industry the tools that they should have in one platform instead of having multiple different platforms that may or may not integrate with each other. And so that's kind of my little 2 cents on the CRM industry.
Yeah, and my thought process is this, man. Agency management systems are designed to manage agencies. They're not designed to manage sales, right? And that's part of the problem is there has to be a shift in thought process. And I'm very vocal about what my thought process is. The problem with insurance agencies right now is they run their business and they build their tech stack like they're an insurance agency. You're not an insurance agency until you physically sell an insurance product and start doing policy administration. Until that happens, you're a sales organization, and sales organizations run off of CRMs, period. Yep. You can't go to a top-performing sales organization in any industry that's out there and ask them to show you how they're using the agency management system as a CRM to develop sales. It's a ludicrous question, but it's just as ludicrous as the insurance industry trying to operate and build high-performing sales team and not giving them the tools like CRMs that salespeople use. The number one question I get when I talk to somebody that is a seasoned salesperson who wants to come on board, and Kyle, this was one of the first questions out of his mouth when he and I talked about him coming to join Florida Risk is, what kind of CRM do you have? Tell me what kind of software you have in place. And people, if you don't think that your tech stack is valuable to recruiting people to come in, the only person you're kidding is the person looking back at you in the mirror. That's part of the problem is we have a disconnect between the old guard and the next generation coming through. Next generation expects us to have these tools, and we're trying to figure out why we need them, or we don't think that we do. And we got to get it through our head. This is the way business is done. In every other segment of, sales in the economy, we got to get there, and we got to get there in a hurry. And you guys are just speeding up the process of doing that by providing a great product with an easy user interface that anybody can use, and you give them the support if they have trouble doing it to make sure they're up and running quickly.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's why I appreciate you. And what you just said there is at the end of the day, an independent insurance agency is a sales factory. Like you are a sales company. You are selling through the sales process. You are selling on renewals, and you are cross-selling. And if you don't have the tools to help you sell in each one of those facets, whether it's servicing an account and upselling from there, whether it's cross-selling, whether it's the actual sales process or renewal, how big of a difference it take. First of all, most agencies come to us and they say, oh yeah, I have 97% retention. And when we look at their data, it's 90 at best. And the massive difference it means to an agency when you come from a 90% retention to going to 96, 97% retention to legitimately, that's an extra 7% to your bottom line in your paycheck as a company. The other thing is everybody thinks that they have a rounded out book of business. And what I can tell people is on average, people come to us and they're about 70 or 80% monoline. And just cross-selling and being able to do those things at that renewal spot or at the service spot, and being able to cross-sell 20% of your business. Like, there is no reason that if you're utilizing a good sales tool, you're not selling at every phase of a client interaction, and the client's going to love you and stick with you longer because of it.
That's a good point.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Wow, man, I feel like Kyle, we're unpacking. We're unpacking a lot on this episode.
Just doing loads of unpacking.
Yeah, no. So listen, Will, I'm going to be respectful of time. We've been going almost an hour at this point. What have we missed that you want people to hear?
I don't know that there's anything missed that I want people to hear. I just, I think the big thing about Better Agency is we're on a mission, and we're not the right, we're on a mission to basically help agencies grow, sell more premium. And that's what we're focused on. Is we're gonna. That's why we call ourselves a sales-driven AMS. We're going to help people grow their agency, and we're just extremely passionate about the independent channel. You're going to see that in our customer success. You'll see that in our group. You'll see that from me directly. I'm very passionate about independence. I communicate that to carriers. Like, I get offended when we have to work with carriers that support direct-to-consumer channels and bypass independence. Like, I am all about the independent space. And that's why I'm very passionate about what's going on in the industry, what's going on in InsurTech. Like, I follow that stuff extremely closely. Like, I talk to investors not because I'm looking to raise money, but because I want to know what's going on in the InsurTech space, because I think it matters to independence. And I think independents control and will continue to control the market. But it's the changes that the industry decides to make now that will dictate the future in 5 years. And so it's my passion. It's what I spend all my time doing. I think that's all I got.
Sweet. So what I'm hearing you say, Will, is if you're an agency and you don't want to make more money, you don't want more sales, then don't use Better Agency. But if you do, because seriously, because Better Agency in and of itself, by existing in your agency and turning it on with the flip of a couple of buttons in a cross-sell campaign, you're going to write new business. I've seen it in dozens of testimonials. So
we've legitimately told people that. Don't get me wrong. Like, Kyle, I would rather be playing golf. I stand by that. But if you would rather be playing golf, if you would rather be doing anything except work on your insurance agency, then we are not the tech partner for you. But if you're serious and intentional about working on your agency, and you want a partner that's going to stick with you and work with you, then you're our type of person.
Cool.
Absolutely. Cool deal. Well, listen, man, I appreciate you coming on and spending an hour with us talking. Much continued success to you and the whole team over there. The yellow and black attack is on. It's obvious. We could see Better Agency all over the place. You can see more of some parts of Better Agency, like Nick's torso, than some want, but we'll let that slide. And, I'm wondering when the foot race is going to happen, man.
We'll see. We're in the process of lining that up in an innovation. If you want to see me and Nick race, we are raising money for Phoenix Children's Hospital. And I think if we hit our goal, that there'll be a race that happens down in Florida.
So I've never seen either one of you run, but I've seen we've had Nick on. I've seen
Nick is
pictures
6'6" and weighs as much as my left leg.
But come on, like, I don't feel like this is going to be much of a race. I guess it's more just for entertainment. Are you running?
I think it's more for entertainment and Nick's unbelievable belief that he is a self-proclaimed better athlete than myself. And I don't know where that comes from. I have no reason to believe that. But.
Is he under the impression he's allowed to wear his rollerblades in the race?
I wouldn't be surprised. I've never seen him on rollerblades, but I have heard he's a legit rollerblader. So maybe there's some caveats to this race I'm not aware of.
This is just getting weird. This is making me uncomfortable.
Yeah, we should probably.
You and me both.
All right, well, listen, man. Again, much success to you people. If you have not checked it out yet, go to betteragency.io. They are demoing machines over there, and they want to help you make more money in your agency. So make sure you reach out and let them know that I sent you and Kyle sent you over there so that they can understand that it's worth their time to come hang out for an hour. Cool. That's it, man. Kyle, take us home.
Sweet. Hey, everybody. If you like this podcast, if you could throw us a like or a review, it would go a long way. We would greatly appreciate it. We thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time on the Power Producers Podcast. See you.
That works. All right, my friend. We'll holler at you later, Will.
All right, man, I
Will.
appreciate it.
Nice to meet you.
You've been listening to the Power Producers Podcast. You can follow Killing Commercial Insurance on Facebook and YouTube. And if you want to take your game to the next level, check out our book, The Extra 2 Minutes, and our website, killingcommercial.com.